All right, so Grok 4.5 just dropped, and everyone's asking the same thing. Is it actually better than Grok 4? It ranked number 13 out of 190 models on Artificial Analysis's index. And that's a third-party leaderboard, not marketing copy. XAI is moving fast, and you need to know which model to actually put in your workflow right now. So I'm running 4 real tests: reasoning, speed, context, and coding, and every number comes from verified third-party sources, no vendor spin. And honestly, the part that surprised me most wasn't the speed gap or the context window. It's what happens when your coding pipeline hits a complex task. And one of these models just makes you wait, and you'll see exactly what I mean in a bit. So who is this actually for? If you're running agentic workflows, processing long documents, or just hammering an AI model through real coding tasks, picking the wrong one costs you time and money every single day. And the gap between these two is bigger than a point release suggests, because Grok 4 is a thinking model flagship, and Grok 4.5 is built for speed and agentic work, which makes them genuinely different tools. Okay, so test 1, reasoning and math accuracy. And here's the failure mode. When a model gets this wrong, you ask it to verify a calculation or work through a multi-step proof. It confidently gives you a wrong answer. You ship it, someone catches it later, and depending on your use case, that's either embarrassing or actually expensive. I looked at this one carefully because the data is kind of split in a way you don't see often. Grok 4.5 hit 29% on GDP-Val Plus, which is professional workplace reasoning across about 2,000 real tasks, and led the whole field, including GPT and Claude. But Grok 4 scored 100% on IMA and 61.9% on USAMO, which are Olympiad-level math benchmarks. And the caveat is, these are completely different test setups where nobody ran both models on the same tasks. I want to be honest here before we call anything, because these two models were tested on totally different benchmarks. Grok 4.5 wasn't run on IME, Grok 4 wasn't in the Snorkel AI professional task evaluation. So putting them on one scale and picking a winner would just be misleading. And what we actually have is 2 models that are strong in different reasoning domains, not one that's clearly smarter overall. So this one's a tie, and I'll be straight, I was expecting a cleaner winner here because Grok 4's Olympiad math scores are genuinely impressive, and Grok 4.5 leading the field on professional reasoning is also real. But without a shared test, you just can't call it. So scoreboard stays flat. Grok 4.5.0, Grok 4.0, 1 tied. And the domain you work in is honestly going to matter more than any aggregate score. Now, test 2, response speed and latency. And this one has a very concrete failure mode. You're in the middle of an agentic pipeline, you fire off a complex task, and then you just sit there waiting because your whole workflow is blocked on one model response. And that's a real friction point that shows up every single time you use it. What surprised me here was just how wide the gap is. Third-party testing from Gomel.io measured Grok 4.5 at around 90 tokens per second on a 10,000 token input. And Artificial Analysis independently got 59.8 tokens per second, while Grok 4 has no published throughput figure at all. But 16 times Evil recorded it at 150 seconds on a single TypeScript task, with complex tasks generally running 2 to 4 minutes. Grok 4.5 takes this one. And honestly, I didn't expect the gap to be this obvious. I was expecting Grok 4 to at least have a published throughput number, but there isn't one. And meanwhile, Grok 4.5 is doing 500 tokens in about 19 seconds versus Grok 4's 2 to 4 minute waits. So that's not close. And the score is now Grok 4.5 1, Grok 4.0, 1 tied. Test 3, context window and memory. And the failure mode here is pretty brutal. If you've hit it, you feed a model a long code base or a stack of documents, and it starts forgetting things from earlier in the conversation. Outputs get inconsistent, it misses context it already had, and you end up chunking and reprompting manually, which kills the whole point of using an AI for this kind of work. I looked at the published specs and third-party confirmations on this one. Grok 4.5 comes in at 500,000 tokens via API, confirmed by both XAI's own docs and Artificial Analysis independently, while Grok 4 sits at 256,000 tokens via API and drops to 128,000 in the app, and neither model keeps memory across sessions, so you're passing all that context fresh every request. But the raw window size difference is real, and it's almost twice as large. Grok 4.5 wins this one clearly. I was expecting maybe a modest edge, but 500,000 versus 256,000 is not a modest edge. That's nearly double. And there's a community-reported enterprise pilot where Grok 4.5 finished a broad reconstruction task using only 29% of its window. So there's real headroom there, which puts us at Grok 4.52, Grok 4.0, 1 tied. Test 4, real-world coding performance. And the failure mode here is specific. You give a model a longer horizon coding task that needs multiple steps and real problem solving, and it either stalls out halfway through or takes so long you've lost the thread of what you were building. That's not a synthetic benchmark problem. That's what actually happens when you're literally hammering a model through a real dev workflow. So I dug into this, and the numbers for Grok 4.5 are pretty strong on agentic coding. 62% on Deep SubVE 1.0 and 29% on SubVE Marathon, which leads all evaluated models according to XAI's data, plus 83.3% on Terminal Bench, where MindStudio notes most well-regarded models can't break 70%, while Grok 4 scored 9.5 out of 10 on a structured Next.js task in 16 times evals human-rated test, but dropped to 6 out of 10 on TypeScript narrowing with a 150-second wait. Okay, so before we call this, I want to be straight with you. The coding data here is not an apples-to-apples comparison, because Grok 4.5's numbers come from XAI's own benchmarks, which may be optimistic. No independent lab ran both models through the same coding setup. And Grok 4 scores come from 16 times evals human-rated tests. So different setups and different tasks, but Grok 4 might do fine on structured, well-scoped problems, and long-horizon agentic work is where it gets interesting. Grok 4.5 takes this one with the caveat that the test setups aren't identical. I was expecting Grok 4 to at least show up on the agentic benchmarks, but there's just no published figure for it there. And Grok 4.5 leading all models on SVE Marathon is hard to ignore even if it's vendor data. So the final score is Grok 4.53, Grok 4.0, one tied. So here's where Grok 4.5 just flat out wins. It's got 500,000 tokens of context versus Grok 4's 256,000. So long document and agentic pipelines get way more room. It runs at around 90 tokens per second versus Grok 4's 2 to 4 minute waits. It leads all evaluated models on SVE Marathon at 29% pass at 1, and it ranked number 13 out of 190 models on Artificial Analysis Index, which is strong independent validation. Now here's where Grok 4 still holds up. It scored 100% on AIM and 61.9% on USAML. So for Olympiad level math and formal proof work, it's the clear pick. Professional mathematicians assessed it as potentially the best available model for mathematical literature search per Epoch AI. And it scored 9.5 out of 10 on a structured Next.js task in 16 times evals human-rated tests. So on well-scoped structured problems, it's genuinely competitive. Honestly, I was expecting this to be closer, but the decision rule is pretty clean. If you need agentic coding, long document processing, or speed-sensitive API work, go with Grok 4.5 because it's faster, has bigger context, and leads on long horizon coding benchmarks. But if your work is specifically Olympiad-level math or deep formal reasoning, and you can absorb those weights, Grok 4's thinking model architecture is still the right call.